to a royal expert, founder of the British Monarchists Society, Thomas Mace-Archer-Mills. Hi, Thomas.
Hello, good evening, Mark. How are you?
I'm very well. Great to have you on the show. Are you surprised by this poll?
I would love to say that I am surprised, but I'm not. I think there's a very big generational gap here. And unfortunately, that the older generation still has not forgiven the Prince of Wales for divorcing the beautiful, lively Diana. So then we have the millennials that just love young people. If you're not trending or tweeting or whatever, you're out. So we have a lot of things that go into this poll. I, for one, am a staunch supporter of Prince Charles. He's been the longest serving Prince of Wales, over 50 years now. There's no one better placed to do the job. He knows the job. He's trained from the beginning of his life for this job. But he is a man misunderstood. He was pushing organics and green living back in the late 70s, 80s when everyone laughed at him.
I do agree, and he's a champion, isn't he, Thomas, of Britain globally. He has amazing soft diplomatic power when he travels the world. I'd say he's number 2, just behind the Queen on that one. He's also unusual for a royal in that he's actually done a lot with his life, not just charitable causes and the military stuff, but also set up a very successful business in Duchy Originals.
Yes, that is true. And we have to just look at the success of that. Waitrose took a lot of Duchy organics. I think there's something nearly 45 million, don't quote me on that, a few years ago, but it was definitely in the tens of millions. But keeping aside what he's done as the Prince of Wales, let's look at it as an individual, someone who is about service to not only his fellow man, but the country. And when we talk about sustainable living, with Poundbury, green farming, the initiatives for keeping our traditional architecture. But when you put him out in the world, he is an advocate for this nation and the British people. If they would only actually put aside their own personal thoughts and look at what he's doing for them and for this nation, they would see a very different man, someone who is committed not to himself, unlike his youngest son, but to his nation.
And also, Thomas, he has also personally lobbied politicians, indeed prime ministers, to make sure that our troops have correct equipment and kits when they're in the field of battle.
But this is important because the government is actually accountable to someone in Her Majesty the Queen, but they will be one day accountable to him. And he wants to make sure that his subjects, the people of his lands, are properly cared for, are having the equipment they need when they go out and fight on behalf of him and his government. He is a lobbyist, first and foremost, to make sure that the British people are taken care of. He's not one for any funny business. And if it's not right, he will call those people to task.
Look, Thomas, full disclosure, I like the guy. And I think that he's been really proactive. You can't have it both ways with royals. You either say that they're sort of lazy and just, sit around drinking tea out of gold teacups and do nothing. And the minute they're active and actually are sort of either campaigning or setting up a business or having other roles, people think that's overreach. So you can't really win. But he's definitely in the latter group, not the former. He has got a conscience. He's got a work ethic as well. He's shown himself to be quite entrepreneurial, which is unheard of for a royal. But you and I are fighting a losing battle, Thomas. The public just don't like the guy.
No, they don't. And it's really unfortunate because I think where we look at this generational gap, everything is at a click of a button. And if they don't read articles, they just read headlines. That's the unfortunate part, because if they did their due diligence, if they knew about their head of state and the one that's coming after, they would love the man. They would love that his automobile collection runs on biodiesel, that he changed all the machines, the strimmers, the lawnmowers on the royal estates to biodiesel. The man just does so much. But you brought up a really good point about statesmanship. And everyone always says when incoming heads of state come, they, of course, are picked up by the Queen, given a lavish meal. But the thing is, most people have no idea. The day after, they go right to Clarence House and meet with the Prince of Wales. That way, this is our hereditary system working, showing people what's coming for the future. You're safe with the Queen. You're definitely going to be safe with the Prince of Wales. And that is the grandeur of the hereditary system, They're trained from birth. They're thrown into it. And if people would understand and be educated about what he does on that level for them every day, they'd have a very, very different look at him.
Do you think there is ageism at play, Thomas? Do you think the public perceive Prince Charles as being perhaps, an appropriate king at a certain point, but just not this sort of late in the day, and that what you'd have with King William is a bit of fresh blood and a bit of enthusiasm and the vigour of youth?
Yes, I agree with you wholeheartedly. But the thing is, why do we want to deny someone who is ready to roll, who's ready to get on with the show, and really put William at a disadvantage? He's a young man with a young family. Shouldn't we want the best for him before he has to take on the stresses of kingship and actually put his country over his family and himself? I think every young person that has a young family can relate when I say, you love your family, you want to spend as much time as you can with them. Imagine having to work 22 out of 24 hours a day and having to have your children make an appointment to see you. That's not normal.
Final thought, Thomas, because I think this is an academic argument, isn't it, that the royal family are not going to change protocol at this stage. It would set a dangerous precedent, wouldn't it, to have a sort of pick and mix option, or even perhaps a national referendum. Remember referenda on whether, somebody in the family should or shouldn't become the next monarch. It's very clear he's next in line to the throne. Will he be a different personality when he becomes king? Will he change? Will it be a different Charles, one that we don't recognise?
Yeah, of course it will. The reason we know Charles as the outspoken lobbyist is because he is not yet king. And people say, oh, when he becomes king, all he's going to do is lobby and be political. He knows the lines. He knows the different roles. Right now, as Prince of Wales, he can do what he wants because there's no outline as to how he can act and what he can do. But when he becomes king, that's all going to change. We will see a very quiet Prince of Wales as king.
Fantastic stuff. Absolutely fascinating, Thomas. Thank you very much for your thoughts on that. Thomas Mace-Archer-Mills is the founder of the British Monarchists Society, who's giving King Charles full backing. But what do you think? Would he be a great king? Or would King Charles be a dog of a king? There you go. You didn't even have to pay for that gag. That's the magic of talk radio.